right, everyone, get ready for today. We are diving deep into attraction psychology. With this article, it claims to have the secret phrase that works on 99.9% of women. Now, I don't know about all that, a magic formula or anything, but it making some interesting points about how women experience attraction that I think are worth, unpacking a bit.
Yes, exactly. I think this is a really good chance to kind of challenge some of those common assumptions out there. Really look at the psychology behind attraction, especially when it comes to women.
Okay, so the article, it starts off by saying attraction for women is more layered than for men. And even that, sexual desire plays a part in that emotional connection. I'll admit, I always thought emotional intimacy had to come first. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a very common misconception, actually. What's really fascinating about this article is it's arguing that for women, those initial feelings, those initial feelings of attraction can actually be sparked by desire. It's not just about the physical aspect, but how that attraction makes them feel deeper, on a deeper emotional level. It's like the feeling itself becomes a part of the attraction.
Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. So it's not just about seeing someone attractive, but about how that initial attraction makes a woman feel, which then contributes to the overall emotional connection.
Exactly, precisely. Like this feedback loop almost, where those initial feelings of desire, they can actually intensify the initial connection.
Interesting. And the article contrasts this with men's attraction, being more, let's say, straightforward, visually driven, see someone attractive, and boom, interested. But for women, it seems like it's about sparking a certain feeling first.
Exactly, and that's why the article argues against being overly direct or explicit, just classic pickup lines like, "You're so sexy, let's go back to my place." It just doesn't resonate the same way. In fact, it can often backfire.
I can definitely see that. It just comes off as inauthentic and kind of dismissive of that complexity the article is talking about.
Right. Instead of appreciating those layers of attraction, it reduces it to something superficial.
So instead of just being blunt, what does the article suggest?
Subtlety and innuendo. It's about piquing her curiosity and letting her imagination kind of take over.
I like that. So it's about creating an atmosphere of intrigue rather than just throwing everything out there.
Exactly. And the article then introduces this concept of playful accusation as a way to spark that intrigue.
Playful accusation. Okay, you've got my attention. What does that even mean?
So think of phrases like, "You're totally flirting with me right now." It's real delivered, of course, in a lighthearted, teasing way.
So you're kind of turning the tables, playfully accusing them of being the pursuer. Interesting. But why? Why would that be effective?
Well, it actually accomplishes a few things. First, humor, right? Humor disarms people, and a lot of it can be attractive. Second, it implies interest without being overly direct. And third, it creates a little bit of a challenge, which can be engaging.
I can see how that would be much more effective than just blurting out, "I think you're cute." It adds that layer of playfulness and encourages a response, makes you want to play along.
Exactly. It sparks that back and forth banter. That can be so crucial in those early stages of attraction.
And the article suggests another method for kind of building that tension and connection, asking intriguing questions. What makes a question intriguing in this context?
Well, it's about asking questions
that
are a little daring, maybe, and encourage her to kind of open up. Things like, "Have you ever been skinny dipping?" Or, "What's your take on public displays of affection?"
Wow. Those are definitely not your average small talk questions. I can see how those would lead to some interesting conversations, especially if the other person is willing to play along.
And again, Turtings, it's about finding that balance between playful and revealing, creating that sense of mystery and intrigue, which, as we've discussed, is really key to sparking attraction, especially for women.
So far, we've mainly focused on sparking that initial attraction, but does the article offer any insights on how to transition that initial spark into a deeper, more lasting connection?
It does. It does touch upon that. The article emphasizes that for women. Desire. It often begins in the mind. It's not just about what they see, but what they think and feel and fantasize about.
So are you saying that tapping into their imagination is key to building that deeper connection?
Creating that. Yes, you're right. Allowing her imagination to run wild. Instead of laying everything out on the table, you're leaving space for her to wonder and kind of create her own narratives.
So you're saying instead of rushing to the climax, you're creating a slow burn that allows anticipation and excitement to build. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Exactly. And it's important to note that this approach isn't about playing games or manipulating anyone. It's about understanding the psychological nuances of attraction and using them to create a more authentic and engaging connection.
So before we dive deeper into this idea of desire starting in the mind, are there any potential pitfalls the article mentions, like red flags to watch out for?
Yes, it cautions against being too explicit or coming across as needy or desperate. It emphasizes that confidence and self-assurance are far more attractive than trying too hard or seeking constant validation.
That's such an important point. Desperation is never attractive. It's all about being secure in yourself and having a genuine interest in getting to know the other.
Exactly. And, goes without saying, but reading the room is crucial. If she seems uncomfortable or disinterested, back off, respect her boundaries, and focus on building a genuine connection.
That's a good reminder that this is not about manipulating someone into liking you, but rather about creating a connection based on mutual respect and understanding.
Absolutely. It's about respecting the other person's individuality and appreciating the unique way they experience attraction.
This is all really fascinating. We've covered a lot of ground, but I'm especially curious about this idea of desire starting in the mind. What does that look like in practice?
That's a great question. And it's one we'll explore in more depth in the next part of our deep dive. Welcome back. Before we really dig into that concept of desire starting in the mind, I think it's worth stepping back for a second and emphasizing that. You know, attraction, it's not as a one-size-fits-all formula. This article gives us, some interesting tools to consider, Don. But individual preferences and dynamics, they always come into play.
Yeah, that's a really important point. What works for one person might totally fall flat for another. We can't forget that.
Exactly. And that's why reading the room is so crucial, no matter what approach you're taking. It's about being sensitive to those subtle cues, right? The other person's giving off. Are they engaged? Are they leaning in? Or are they pulling back?
So it's not just about mastering techniques, but also about developing that sense of empathy and awareness in our interactions.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that the other person has their own thoughts and feelings and boundaries.
And respecting those, right? Regardless of whether you're using a playful accusation or a straightforward compliment.
And I think that ties into the point the article made about authenticity. We can learn all the tips and tricks in the world, but if we're not being genuine, people can sense that, right?
Absolutely. Trying to be someone you're not is never attractive. Authenticity builds trust and connection, which are the foundations of any strong relationship.
It's like that saying, Kim, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. But on a deeper level, it's about being comfortable in your own skin because that confidence is naturally attractive. Exactly. It shows. You're not trying to fit into a mold or be someone you're not. And that can be incredibly refreshing and alluring.
Okay, so we've talked about reading the room, being authentic, and understanding that there's no single formula for attraction. But I'm curious, once you've sparked that initial interest, how do you move beyond those early interactions?
I don't know.
And build a deeper connection?
That's where shared experiences come into play. And finding common ground, the article suggests, asking questions that delve deeper than small talk. It's about uncovering those shared values and passions and experiences that can create a true bond.
So instead of talking about the weather, we're talking about favorite books, travel dreams, or even pet peeves.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond that surface level conversation and discovering what makes the other person tick. Finding those points of connection that spark genuine interest and create a sense of shared understanding.
I've definitely noticed that in my own life. When you find out you share a passion for something, whether it's a hobby, a cause, or even a particular type of food, it instantly creates a sense of connection.
Absolutely. It gives you a foundation to build on, something to talk about, to laugh about, to disagree about even. It's through those shared experiences that we truly get to know someone and see if there's potential for a deeper connection.
It makes me think of that spark analogy again. The initial attraction might light the fire, but you need those shared experiences, those moments of connection to keep the flames burning.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's about nurturing that spark and building a connection that goes beyond that initial attraction.
So the article might have started with a bold claim about a magic phrase, but it seems like it's really about a much deeper understanding of human connection.
I think that's a fair assessment. It reminds us that attraction is multifaceted and dynamic, and that building a genuine connection requires authenticity, empathy, and a willingness to go beyond those surface level interactions.
And now we're finally ready to tackle that concept. That really piqued my curiosity. The idea that desire, especially for women, often begins in the mind.
Let's dive into that. What's fascinating here is it challenges the notion that attraction is purely instantaneous, based solely on physical appearance. It suggests there's a cognitive and emotional element at play that can actually influence how we experience attraction.
That's a powerful idea. Are we saying you can think yourself into being attracted to someone, or is it more nuanced than that?
It's definitely more nuanced. It's not about forcing attraction, but recognizing that our thoughts and feelings and even fantasies can play a role in shaping how we perceive and experience desire.
So it's not just about seeing someone attractive, but about the narratives we create in our minds, right? The stories we tell ourselves about that person.
Exactly. Remember how I compared this to romance novels? They often build tension slowly, allowing the reader to get to know the characters, to imagine their lives, their desires, their vulnerabilities. It's that gradual unfolding that creates a captivating experience.
That makes a lot of sense. You get invested in the story. You start to anticipate what might happen next. And that builds excitement and desire.
Precisely. And the article suggests that similar dynamics can be at play in real-life attraction. Instead of revealing everything about yourself up front, it's about cultivating an air of mystery, leaving space for the other person to wonder, to imagine, to fill in the blanks with their own narrative.
So it's like leaving breadcrumbs, little hints that spark curiosity and encourage the other person to explore further.
Yes. And this ties back to the idea of subtlety and innuendo that we discussed earlier. It's about hinting at things rather than spelling them out, allowing the other person to piece together the puzzle and create their own interpretation.
So it's not about playing hard to get, but rather about being selective in what you reveal, how you reveal it.
It's about pacing yourself, unveiling different layers of your personality over time, and allowing the other person to feel like they're discovering something unique and special about you.
It's like building anticipation, creating a sense of excitement and wonder that keeps the other person engaged and wanting more.
Precisely. And this approach can be incredibly effective because it taps into our natural curiosity and desire for the unknown. It creates a sense of intrigue. It can be far more captivating than a straightforward approach.
So while physical attraction might be the initial spark, it seems like it's this mental and emotional engagement that fuels the fire and keeps the connection going.
I think there's a brilliant insight. It's about creating an experience that goes beyond the superficial and taps into those deeper levels of connection.
But is this approach universally effective? Are there people who might not respond to this kind of subtlety and intrigue?
You raise a great point, just as there are different personality types and communication styles, also different ways of experiencing and expressing attraction.
So reading the room is still crucial. We need to be aware of the other person's preferences and adjust our approach accordingly.
Absolutely. If someone thrives on direct communication and finds ambiguity frustrating, then a more straightforward approach might be more effective. It's all about finding a dynamic that feels comfortable and authentic for both people involved.
This is all making me rethink my own understanding of attraction. It's not just about looks or chemistry, but about this intricate interplay between our minds, emotions, and experiences.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. There's no one-size-fits-all formula, but understanding the psychology behind attraction can definitely give us valuable insights and tools to navigate this complex and rewarding aspect of human connection.
We've been talking about some really fascinating stuff about attraction. Honestly, it's making me rethink some of my own assumptions. It's not just about, that instant spark, but about the mental and emotional dance that unfolds between two people.
Yeah, exactly. That dance can be incredibly complex and nuanced, especially when we consider the role of imagination and how it influences desire.
Right, we were just talking about how, for women in particular, desire often begins in the mind. I'm still kind of grappling with that, what that means practically. It can't just be about daydreaming.
Right, it's more about creating an experience that engages the other person's imagination, giving them space to create their own narratives, their own interpretations. Think of it as a collaborative storytelling process where you're offering intriguing hints, little glimpses into your personality. But you're not revealing the whole story at once.
So instead of laying all your cards on the table right away, it's about pacing yourself, being selective about what you reveal, and letting the other person fill in the blanks with their own thoughts and fantasies.
Exactly. It's about creating that sense of mystery and intrigue that draws the other person in and makes them want to learn more.
This reminds me of something we talked about earlier, the power of questions, but not just any questions, those intriguing questions, the ones that encourage the other person to open up and share a bit of themselves.
Yes, and those questions can be incredibly effective because they invite the other person into a shared experience of discovery. It's not just about getting to know each other on a factual level, right? But about creating a space for vulnerability, curiosity, and even a bit of playful tension.
So it's like you're creating a puzzle together, but instead of forcing the pieces, you're offering intriguing clues and letting the other person figure out where they fit.
That's a great analogy. It's about sparking their curiosity and making them want to invest their time and energy in getting to know you.
This all sounds very strategic, but I'm wondering, can it feel inauthentic if you're too focused on creating that sense of mystery?
That's a valid concern. And that's where authenticity comes into play again. It's not about being someone you're not, but rather about being mindful of how you present yourself, pacing yourself, and allowing the connection to unfold organically.
You're curating the experience without being manipulative. It's about highlighting the most intriguing aspects of yourself while still being genuine.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, right, between revealing too much too soon and being so guarded that you create a wall between yourself and the other person.
This makes me think about times when I've felt most drawn to someone. It wasn't necessarily because they were the most conventionally attractive, but there was something about them that sparked my curiosity, made me want to understand them better.
And that's often the magic of attraction. It's not always about instant fireworks, but about that slow burn, that sense of intrigue that keeps you coming back for more.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on attraction. It's not just about physical appearance or clever pickup lines, but about understanding the psychology behind connection and creating an experience that engages both the mind and the heart.
I agree. And this article
offered some specific techniques. I think the most valuable takeaway is this emphasis on authenticity, respect, and a genuine curiosity about the other person. Absolutely. It's about approaching relationships with a sense of playfulness, awareness, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zones and explore what truly connects us to others.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of attraction. We hope this exploration has sparked your curiosity and given you some new insights to consider.
And as always, we want to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you most from this conversation? What are your own experiences with attraction and connection? Join the conversation on our social media or website. We love hearing from you.
Till next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep those sparks flying.